Hello and welcome to today's lesson. I'm your hard-working but indefatigable teacher, Mr. Burton. You will need to watch this video and take notes as you go. You may need to watch certain parts of the video a few times to ensure complete understanding. This is your homework and I will check your notes tomorrow before we get started. I hope you learned something.
Okay, welcome to today's topic, supply. In the competitive market, we have demand from individual consumers and we have the supply of firms. A few definitions to start with. Supply is the quantity of a good or service that a firm is willing and able to provide to the market. Quantity supplied is all about price. So quantity supplied is the amount of a good or a service that a business is willing and able to produce at across a range of different prices. The law of supply is like the law of demand turned on its head. It's kind of the opposite. The law of supply says that as the price of a good or service increases, the quantity supplied increases, and vice versa for a decrease in price. Again, assuming ceteris paribus, all other variables or factors remaining equal. So it's price. We're just looking at changes in price and how that affects supply. The law of supply.
The law of supply is one of the most fundamental principles in microeconomics. According to the law of supply, for all other things remaining constant, the higher the price of a good or service, the higher the supply. Producers want to produce more of that good or service at the higher price to increase profits. Conversely, the lower the price, the lower the supply. If you were to graph this relationship with the quantity supplied on the x-axis and the price on the y-axis, the relationship between price and supply is graphed as an upward sloping curve from left to right. This line is referred to as a supply curve. Movement along the supply curve is referred to as supply expanding or contracting as price changes. Wesleya Corp produces electric cars. At a price of $20,000, Wesleya produces 5,000 cars. If the price increases to $25,000, Wesleya will produce 6,000 electric cars. The higher price induces them to build more cars. The law of supply is a theoretical concept. In real life, variables do not remain constant. Things other than price can affect supply, such as prices of related goods, availability, and price of raw materials.
Okay, turning our attention to the supply schedule. Just like we were able to derive a demand schedule for the demand topic, we can do the same thing with supply. Now, a supply schedule is a table that shows a relationship between the price of a good and the quantity of that good supplied across a range of different prices. So let's assume there are only 5 firms that make up a whole market. This table shows the quantity supplied by each of those 5 firms at a range of different prices. Now if we sum across each individual firm at each price, we're going to get the market supply for that price. So the price at 50 cents, the market supply is going to be 270 units of this good, and at the higher prices of $2.50, this jumps up to 570 units of the good. Remember, the higher the price, the greater the quantity of the good is being supplied to market. So we've got the individual supply schedules for each firm, and market supply is a sum of all individual firms in the market, all of the firms in the market. A little bit more detail here. We take the range of prices, we take all of the individual firms in the market. So this is the individual supply schedule for Company A, Company B, Company C, Company D and Company E. Now if we sum across all of these companies that constitute the market, we will get our market supply. So at $5.25 is the market supply, $4.20. At $3 we're adding up across those different firms. Market supply is 15. It keeps falling. At low prices, firms do not like to supply the market because it's relatively less profitable. So price will determine the market supply schedule. And once we have our market supply schedule, we'll be able to determine a market supply curve. So the supply curve represents a relationship between price on the x-axis, and quantity supplied on the y-axis, right, assuming everything else remains equal. So remember, at low prices, the quantity supplied is less. At low prices, supplying a good is relatively less profitable. At high prices, supplying the good becomes relatively more profitable. Now this phrase, relatively more profitable, is an excellent one to be using in your assessments, exams, and the answers to any in-class questions. Now economics assumes that firms are motivated by profit. All things being equal, as price increases, this will lead to higher profits, and lower prices to lower profits. Now businesses are going to increase the quantity supplied of a good or service if its price increases, because it's going to become relatively more profitable. When prices decrease, the opposite occurs. It becomes relatively less profitable to produce and supply this good to market. Now firms will produce more or less of a product by shifting resources away from the production of other goods and services that are perhaps relatively less profitable. So they take the workers being used to make relatively less profitable goods B, C and D, and they will shift them into making more of product A, which would be relatively more profitable. A shift of resources.
In the supply curve, we want to know the relationship between price and quantity supplied. Let's make it real simple by keeping everything else constant. That means ceteris paribus. Great. Only price and quantity left. As usual, we put the price on the vertical axis and quantity on the horizontal axis. As producers, we love profits like bees love honey. Since price increases revenue, increase in revenue, increase profits. The higher the price, the merrier. At $2, we'll supply 10 cakes, but at $4, whoa, higher price. Let's supply more cakes. Connect the dots. Ta-da! The supply curve. Note, it's upward sloping. When price increases, quantity supplied increases. When price decreases, quantity supplied decreases. The arrows are in the same direction. This is the law of supply. There is a direct relationship between price and quantity supplied. Ceteris paribus, given everything else constant. If you like this video,
the different factors determining supply, we have a list of them here.
Let's imagine we're all producers and think like producers. We love profits like bees love honey. Revenue minus cost give us profit, so anything that increases profit will make us produce, produce, and produce. Money, money, money. First, prices. When price increases, revenue increases. Hence, profits increase. That's a signal to produce more. In other words, increase quantity supplied. Input prices. Suppose we bake and sell cakes. Eggs, flour, and labor all cost money. When price of inputs like eggs increases, baking cakes become less profitable, so we'll supply fewer cakes. Technology. We used to bake with these. That's slow. Due to improvements in technology, we now bake with these. Our productivity increases. So better technology helps us save cost, which increases our profits. We'll gladly supply more cakes. Yum yum. Competitive supply. As bakers, we can bake cakes or bread. If price of bread increases, this means baking bread is more profitable. Then we should bake more bread? Crap. Supply of cakes has to decrease. Why? Because we use the same resources to bake bread and cakes. When we bake more bread, we have fewer resources left to bake cakes. In this case, we say that cakes and bread are in competitive supply. When supply of bread increases, supply of cakes has to decrease. There is another type of supply called joint supply. For example, beef and leather. To produce more beef, we have to slaughter more cows. This allows us to produce more leather too. So we say that beef and leather are in joint supply. When supply of beef increases, supply of leather increases as well. Expectation of future prices. Suppose you own some gold. If you think the price of gold is going to fall in the future, sell the gold as soon as possible before its price falls further. So supply of gold today will rise. If you think the price is going to rise in the future, then keep the gold today so that you can sell it at a higher profit in the future. So supply of gold today will fall. Weather. Remember the tsunami that hit Japan in 2011? That destroyed many factories. So supply of many stuff like cars and electronics decreased in the short term. And of course, with good weather, supply increases. Number of producers. In 2010, if you wanted a tablet, you had to get an iPad. As more manufacturers entered the tablet market, you have many choices today. When number of producers increases, supply increases, and vice versa. So this is the summary. But hey, there are so many factors affecting supply. How do I graph the supply curve? If you like this video,
let's look at some of these individual factors in a little bit more detail now. So the supply curve can shift left or it can shift right. And things that will cause the supply curve to do this are sevenfold for the purpose of our course. Cost of production, productivity, the price of related goods, climate and natural disasters, the profitability of industry, indirect taxes and subsidies. Cost of production, a very, very, very important determinant of the supply curve. So the cost of production are costs related to the making of goods or services, and these directly generate revenue for a firm. So increases in the prices of the factors of production, land, labour, capital, entrepreneurship, will lead to increased cost of production to the firm. Increased costs mean relatively less profits are earned, and remember, profitability is what it is all about. So increased costs mean relatively less profits are earned. So the supply curve is going to decrease, shift left, increase profits, decrease costs, and the supply curve will shift right. Decrease costs, more profitability, increase in supply, the supply curve shifting right. Productivity, another very important determinant in supply, because productivity directly affects costs. Productivity we define as being the measure of output per unit of input. Inputs are labour, capital, etc. So for example, 2 bakers together, their productivity is perhaps 3 cakes an hour. So 2 bakers at $20 an hour can make 3 cakes per hour. The cost per cake is $40 divided by 3 cakes. Give our 2 bakers a little bit of technology and suddenly they can produce a whole lot more cakes. The same 2 bakers, they're still being paid $20 an hour. Now they can make 8 cakes per hour. Productivity has increased. Productivity increasing has caused the cost per cake to fall. So now that $40 per hour is being used, it's the cost of making 8 cakes. So $40 divided by 3 cakes, the productivity is a lot less and the cost per cake is more expensive. $40 divided by 8 cakes, productivity has increased, and this drives down the cost per unit, the cost per cake. Productivity has increased, the cost per cake has fallen. Supply will increase as it's now relatively more profitable to make and bake these cakes. Price of related goods. Now firms don't necessarily have to produce just one good or service. For example, a farmer can produce both wheat and corn. The baker can produce bread or cakes. So these 2 types of goods are substitutes in production. If the price of corn increases, then the farmer is going to shift resources to producing corn and dedicate less resources to producing wheat, because wheat becomes relatively less profitable. So if the price of corn increases, the farmer will grow less wheat, it's less profitable, and increase the amount of corn that he or she is producing. So these types of goods are termed competitive supply. The goods compete for the same factor resources being used in production. Now, corn, the supply will decrease. Wheat, wheat, the supply is going to decrease. The supply curve will shift left. Corn, the supply will increase. The supply curve will shift right. Joint supply is when the production of goods are derived from a single product. So to make cheese, you need milk. If we're making more cheese, we're going to need more milk. So as the price of milk increases, the supply of cheese will decrease. Climate and natural disasters. Climate can affect lots of the supply of lots of different commodities. So if a farmer has good growing season, lots of sun, enough rain, then our farmer is going to be able to supply a lot of wheat to the market. However, if there's a drought and the production of wheat decreases as a result, then the supply curve will shift left. Less is supplied at each and every price. The profitability of industry. Remember, supply, being in business is all about profitability. If an industry is earning good profits, 2 things can happen. Existing firms can expand their production capabilities by making capital investments, and or new firms will enter the market. Again, relative profitability is the key. Why produce goods and services in industries where there's little profit to be made when businesses could be established in high new profitable industries? So the market for wheat, the market for corn, if the profitability of wheat increases, then we're going to get new farmers, new producers entering that market, so the supply of wheat will increase, and as a consequence of that, the relatively less profitable good, corn, the supply will decrease there. Wheat, the supply will increase, it will shift right. Corn, the supply will decrease, it will shift left as it becomes relatively less profitable. Indirect taxes. An indirect tax is a tax levied on goods and services, and examples include sales taxes, GST, and value-added taxes, VAT. Indirect taxes increase the cost of production to firms. Subsidies. Now, subsidy is a government grant, a payment to industry, a payment to firms to increase the production of a good or service, to keep the price of a good or service lower than the market can usually supply at. So supply increases as lower cost of production makes supplying the good or service relatively more profitable. So subsidies increase supply. So changes in supply. If the market supply increases at each and every price, then we're also going to see an increase in the supply curve. So the supply curve will shift right. More is supplied at each and every price. And this is exactly how we will model it. An increase in supply means that more of the good will be supplied at each price. And finally, quantity supplied versus supply. Just as in demand, it's a very, very important distinction to make. So changes in the price of a good or service results in a change in the quantity of that good or service supplied. And that's a movement along the supply curve. Any other change in the determinants of supply results in actual changes in supply, and that's a shift of the supply curve.
In the supply curve, when price increases from $2 to $4, quantity increases from 10 to 20. From $4 to $6, quantity increases from 20 to 30. The dot just moves along this curve. In econ speak, this movement is called change in quantity supplied. When price changes, we say there's a change in quantity supplied. Remember, there are other factors affecting supply as well. For instance, when price of eggs increases, producing cakes gets more expensive. We'll bake fewer cakes at every price. At $2, at $4, at $6, at every price. So, the entire supply curve shifts to the left. In econ speak, we say this is a decrease in supply. What if price of eggs decreases? The cost of baking cakes decreases. Profits increase. So bake more cakes. Supply increases. So the supply curve shifts right. Let's add graphs into the summary. When price increases, quantity supplied increases. It's a movement up the supply curve. When price decreases, quantity supplied decreases. It's a movement down the supply curve. When any of these non-price factors change in respective directions, supply increases. So the supply curve shifts right. When these factors change the other way, supply decreases. so supply curve shifts left. So far, we have been talking about individual supply. How do we derive the market supply? In other words, how many cakes can the market supply? If you like this video,